I had just come home from school and I got a frantic phone call. It was my dad. He said, "Neeta, your mom, she's in the hospital. The cancer is back." And there, that lump in my throat came up again. And he said, "It spread to now her lungs and her brain." You see, my mom, she wanted the best for us. There were 3 of us. She grew up with a certain standard of living. She and my dad loved the finer things in life. There was a point when my mom and my dad, where they couldn't really sustain that lifestyle. And so, to protect her children, to protect face from society, to protect all of the things that as first-generation immigrant parents want so badly for their children, to go to the best schools, she wanted to be able to provide. She wanted to be able to not only help my dad because he was going through a really big challenge in his business, and so she took it upon herself. She started working not 1 job, but 2 jobs. We barely saw her. We would always enjoy the times in the morning when she would drop us off at school. I never really got to know who my mom was. You see, she got cancer for the first time when I was 10. I realized she was sacrificing so much because of this life that she was wanting so badly for her children. We had to keep up with all of the status quo, the expectations, the society that they had built. But for what? At the end of the day, it was her health that mattered. I mean, all of that hard work, the 12-hour shifts that she was doing. Sometimes she would stay up late at night when one of my brothers was having an asthma attack, and she would go to work the next day. I mean, she was running herself so ragged because it was this never-ending pursuit, this never-ending chase, this idea that we had to keep up with all the other families who were boasting about their new cars, the new house, the vacations, the country club memberships, all of the amazing things that people want when they're raising a family in the US. The only thing I didn't have was, I didn't have my mom. I watched her succumb to the disease that she had. And even her own body thought that it wasn't good enough to sustain her own life, where the cancer actually spread like wildfire into her brain and into her lungs so badly that her lungs filled up with so much fluid. She was at work that day. She decided to go to work even though she was coughing so much. But for what? Because of what society's expectations are on how we should keep doing and doing and doing and providing and showing and all of these things that we kind of chase after. The diagnosis was clear. She only had 6 months to live. And most of that time was spent visiting her, connected to a ventilator. You see, the last 3 months, she couldn't even speak. It's all because it was never enough. The epidemic of not feeling good enough actually took my mom's life. But in your life, this can be happening right now. And it might be showing up in ways such as overdoing, overcompensating, always people-pleasing. It's never enough time to do everything that you want to. Maybe you have an eating disorder because you're trying to fit in those clothes. Or you don't think you're skinny enough. You don't think you're smart enough, which is why you keep getting all of these degrees. You're not ready enough, which is why you can't leave that job. You haven't seen that many people. You haven't had that many certifications. So where does this actually come from? You see, society wires us when we are just tiny little babies, when we are kids, that it's never going to be good enough, that we are never going to be good enough. You see, think about it. When we're kids, we go to school, and in school, we're taught to get straight A's. We're taught to plan to go to the Ivy League schools. And when you go to the Ivy League school, it'll finally be enough. Or when you play that sport and you win the championship, that'll finally be enough. Or when you actually get that master's degree and that MBA, you'll finally be good enough. Or when you find that perfect partner, you'll finally be good enough. Or when you get married and have the picture-perfect wedding, you'll finally be good enough. But the buck never stops. You see, after we get married, we still have to have kids, and then that's not good enough. And then we have to reach that $1 million. That's not good enough. We have to impact this many lives. That's not good enough. Until you reach your deathbed, or maybe you get sick. And even on our deathbed, we're actually never good enough. So there could actually be another way. You see, society tells us from a really young age that we are never going to be good enough, no matter what we do, no matter what we accomplish, no matter how many things we have checked on our box. But you have such a powerful mind. We have such a powerful mind. And we can actually rewire our brain pattern. We can rewire ourselves to think that we are good enough. You see, if we actually make new connections, if we actually train our brain to think we are actually good enough by reassociating meanings, and once we change the meanings, we change the patterns. Once we change our patterns, we change the stories behind those meanings. And when we have the new patterns, we can finally be enough in every area of our life. Now, what would happen if you actually felt good enough? I want you to close your eyes for 30 seconds and just imagine what your life would be if you were enough. There wouldn't be any expectations. You'd finally be free. You'd have that courage to ask for that promotion. You'd be fearless in executing your first business. You would be passionate about going after the love of your life. You would feel excited about your beautiful body and sign up for that marathon that you've always wanted to do. You would finally stand your ground and stand up to your parents and let them know what you really want to do, what your heart really wants. You would finally have the determination to leave any toxic relationships, to truly focus on you. Now open your eyes. You are enough.